production is brought to you by DHBN, WTHC Radio, and Stoner Records.
Stepping up strong with a righteous plea. Summer Parker fighting for you and me. Patients need what the doctor has said. Safe access now to the meds they bred. One love, one fight, don't you delay. Rights for the people in every way. We stand tall, we won't back down. Safe access is the anthem sound. Safe access is the anthem sound. The struggle is real, so is the fire. For health and hope we climb higher. Stand with the ones who can't stand alone. For every voice deserves a throne. Compassion leads where the laws resist. A healer's heart can't coexist with barriers blocking what we deserve. The people's needs must be preserved. One love, one fight, don't you delay. Rights for the people in every way. We stand tall, we won't back down. Safe access is the anthem sound. Safe access is the anthem sound. Summer's voice, it carries the flame for justice chant.
It ended early. What did it do that for? Hang on, let's see. There we go. All right, guys. So we are coming back for our, I think, 7th or 8th week of Patients for Safe Access weekly podcast. And this week we have a jam-packed show with tons of questions. We have Dr. Regina Nelson, who is going to be joining us here very shortly. She is a multi-time book author. She authored the book, The Survivor's Guide to Cannabis, and many others. I believe she is up to 7 books or more at this point. So she is also a part of, let's see, we'll just say this. Today we're going to be diving into cannabis, continued education, and employee credentialing with Dr. Regina Nelson. She is also part of the ECS Therapy Center. And then later on in this episode, we will be bringing on Jed Green from ORCA again. We had him on a couple weeks ago. And these two brains are going to talk to us about State Question 837 and the different ways that it's moving forward in the state of Oklahoma for our state question for recreational or / adult use cannabis. So if you want to, we can go ahead and bring Miss Regina up and we'll give her the chance to tell us a little bit about herself. Hi, Regina.
Hi, Summer. How are you?
How are you? I'm good, sweetie. So good to see you again. I got to see this beautiful soul last, 2 weeks ago in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
You are from where currently?
Well, I currently live in Southwest Colorado, but I'm from Oklahoma originally.
Nice. So how is Colorado?
Rainy right now. I like it. We needed a little rain.
Is the weed good though?
Oh, it's very good. So more expensive than Oklahoma though, for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. So you want to give us a short little rundown bio about you and what, started your journey in this, in authoring and in cannabis and all these great things.
Well, I got the wild idea when I started my PhD in ethics and social justice program to pick up the issue of social justice of medical marijuana. Mm-hmm. And while I was working on a degree in leadership and public policy, I was also dealing with a lot of health issues and trying to figure out how to use cannabis medicinally. And that took me, down the research hole and learning more about the endocannabinoid system and just the use of cannabis in general. And so as I started being able to pull that information together, it still wasn't readily available to people. So I founded a nonprofit, the ECS Therapy Center, in 2015, thinking by the time we celebrated our 10th anniversary, people would kind of know what ECS stands for, but I still explain it all the time because it stands for endocannabinoid system.
Yes, it does.
And
All the cannabinoids.
yeah, so it's about all the cannabinoids and really so much more, but having this master regulatory system at a cellular level is something really important. And so I developed kind of a precursor to the to the Survivor's Guide to Medical Cannabis called the ECS Therapy Companion Guide. So I guess that really puts the Survivor's Guide now into its fourth real edition, but it is the third edition of the title, the Survivor's Guide to Medical Cannabis. But along that way, we needed, CME accredited education for doctors. There really isn't a lot of it that focuses on the endocannabinoid system. And those that do within cannabis, most doctors don't want to go to Cannabis University and get a CME and turn it into their board. And that's just some, just straight facts. And so I went and applied at the American Academy of Family Physicians and received accreditation for what's now become the first level and then the second level and third level of the Cannacian Certification Program. And we rolled that out in 2017 with the ECS Therapy Center offering a certification for people who are in the industry. And we're really the first to do that. We've built upon it, over the years, and we've across the globe certified about 20,000 people.
Oh, wow.
And I have about 44 trainers in 9 different countries who teach the curriculum in their local communities. So to me, that's been really successful. And we're looking at new ways to kind of continue to build upon that.
Absolutely.
But, a big part of it is still we have a lot of disconnects, and it's because we're still dealing with a Schedule I drug. So we haven't had the type of funding that would normally open up through states and through the federal government that would give opportunity for people to really get good education around what is the endocannabinoid system and how, can you supplement it if you're having health issues. And a big part of that is we don't require physicians, they're giving recommendations to have much education, if any. And patients kind of come by what they learn sometimes haphazardly. Oklahoma is a state I've had a really good influence in, but we're still in the real infancy of where we need to be with the education that we already know.
No, I would absolutely agree. And I got to say that I have been blessed with one of the scholarships for your training program. And I'm super excited about that. I've been printing them at home. So this is Cannacian Level 1 training. And I also have to say that my youngest daughter, she has been a bud tender in the industry at different points. And sorry, at one point I ended up paying for her to have Cannacian Level 1 and Cannacian Level 2. She didn't complete 2, but she's, partway through the process of getting that training done. What I think is really awesome about this training is that the OMMA, which is the Oklahoma Medical Marijuana Authority, because this is broadcast nationwide, so we're not, we have to kind of tell them where Oklahoma's at in this. But when they decided to implement credentialing for the employees, they put it up there and they had the words credentialing and training. However, all we ever saw come out was the credentialing side of it. And I even asked at a PCA meeting if that training was going to include people example, compliance experts in the industry. You know what I mean? That type of a thing. And I do feel like all facets of the industry could benefit from your training program. And I'm really, really hoping that the state of Oklahoma will pick up your program as the training tool for that.
Oh, I would love that. And I think, I've done other things within cannabis for other states and, for other organizations. And I feel like there could be a very comprehensive program put together that could really benefit badged employees so that they would have a broader understanding of the industry and what the licenses are, how they interact, how they work together, the things they need to watch for. I come from a background in human resources and in trying to solve operational problems. And so
Right.
I feel like there's nothing but opportunity here. But, I've been waiting for the state to put out a bid or put out a request for something like that, and they just haven't done it. If they would do it, I could sure fill it.
Have you went through the process of doing the OMES vendor application and stuff like that yet?
Yeah, in some ways,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So Charles is asking in the comments, do you think that Oklahoma politicians, and I'm going to say this, not just Oklahoma
Mhm,
politicians, but right now specifically them,
mhm.
would they benefit from learning from your program?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. In fact, I worked during the 788 run. That former Senator Connie Johnson came to my classes, and she brought
Love Connie.
two, at that time, House representatives to one of my
Mhm.
sessions that I did in Oklahoma City at OSU. And,
Okay.
and I do think that there's a lot to learn. Most people have heard about medical marijuana and they talk about medical marijuana in some way. And, but they don't really understand why it works or is working for someone, or why a child with a seizure disorder can benefit from it, but they're still afraid, of teen use. And so we really have to look at this, from a broader perspective. And really, education is the thing that changes things. When people are educated and come to
Absolutely.
understand more about their endocannabinoid system and about the use of cannabis as medicine, we demystify it. And we really do change things.
I would love to see the state of Oklahoma take a percentage of the taxes received from medical marijuana, 1%, 2%. We're not asking for
Yeah.
all of it, but to put that money into the research of the
Yep.
medical benefits of cannabis versus all of the propaganda that we see that's still very much so a reefer madness mentality in ways.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Or even into bona fide, again, education. The reason that I
Hmm.
brought the CME accreditation to the Cannacian program is because there are a lot of people out teaching information, but I've been to a lot of it, and not all of it is factual. And I've not
Correct.
only tried to keep it factual, but keep it up to date. And,
Yes.
and that can be a challenge, but it's this thing of I've been to so many different cannabis events, and I've heard, somebody who I came to hear speak, and then they said something that I just know is incorrect, or that
Correct.
it's a myth or a rumor, and they have no foundation for saying that. I once heard a doctor that's well respected in cannabis say, you need to watch out about dabbing because it could blow out your endocannabinoid system. And I'm like, how's it gonna blow out your, like, okay, where does that come from? And so I had a chat with him after that thing, but it is this thing of like people are gonna take that away and they believe it. And so you
Yeah.
want it to be factual. You need it to be well researched. You need to, be able to explain, why this works well for some people and not quite as well for others. But most people seem, again, to have a benefit. And again, there's a health use to it all. And so I don't really see, as we talk about recreation or medical use, that there's much difference other than one is more casual and one is more focused.
I think I definitely have some where I feel like there's differences in my opinion, but
Mhm.
we're going to talk about that stuff with Jed here in a little bit.
Yeah, that.
so,
Mhm.
so let's see. I thought that I saw on your website one of the books that's like the Cannabis Journal. Was that
Mhm.
correct? Okay, where you're like journaling your own experience
Yeah.
with strain specific and product specific. Guys, please, what is your website name, Regina? Will you please tell them?
Yeah, it's just reginanelson.com.
Okay.
And so you can go there and you can check out all my books. I've got the new Survivor's Guide. I've got a new book out called The Survivor's Secret Weapon on Cannabis and Cancer. And I've got another new booklet out on surviving pain.
The one
That,
that the book that I'm talking about with like journaling your experience is
and there
super
are
important.
journals
I
and
know
there
that
are handbooks for the classes. And But those are the
Mm-hmm.
3 newest ones. And so you can get everything that I have on, my website, and you can even sign up to take the
When I
PhD.
first started consuming cannabis, albeit I didn't know much about any of it, you know what I mean? But through the process of testing different strains, different product types, and things like that, I was able to deduce what worked for my ECS, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so I think that journal is important for a lot of people, especially if you're going after this for the medicinal benefit of it, so that you
Mhm.
can identify what works for you and be able to have those products available at the ready. So
Agreed.
Sherry said that she actually was blessed a few years ago with the same training program, with the ECS training. And then she said that she has even sent that information over to Director Adria Berry to hopefully pick up that program. That was about a year ago whenever she sent that over to them.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I appreciate that, Sherry. Yeah, any help,
Yeah,
any help. But
right.
it was funny, right when I got arrested in Oklahoma in February of 2018, right as 788 was really ramping up. And so the state required that I come back and forth for court. So every time I did, I taught classes. We got on the news. We sold out. We had a lot of people coming. But I really felt that in a lot of ways that the patients were more prepared in Oklahoma for what was about to come than they had been in most other states. That so many people, they had an idea, they had a therapy plan. Now they were starting, they could get good access to products. And that's not something
Yeah.
that we see even with states that are new now. I mean, we only have 35 or 37 states that are medicalized. There's still some that are moving in that direction. And you just don't get education up front. You don't get hardly any during. We're spread really thin. We'd like to be funded to do a lot more of it, but it's really hard, again, with that
Oh, yeah,
scheduling.
absolutely. Well, we are going to have to take a break for our disclaimer and our song. And then after that, we will bring you back up, and we will also be joined by Mr. Jed Green.
Awesome.
Nope, I think Hippie's finding it. He told me like 2 minutes till that we had to break for the disclaimer. So I was on time, but Hippie wasn't ready. Nah, it's not frozen, Sherry. All right, almost. There we go.
It's the song. It's the commercial. If you don't hear the commercial, I got to run the commercial first. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Veterans the plant medicine
commercial's almost over.
at zero cost when money's tight. Now they're going even bigger. VetStock is coming, a powerful event where veterans will come together to convert a school bus into a home for a fellow vet who sleeps on the streets every night. You can sign up for canna cooking classes, grab some awesome merch, and make a donation that directly saves lives. Go to Operation Heal, HEEL, and click to help our vets, to get involved, and help us bring plant healing to those who fought for us. This is for the people, by the people. No red tape, no politics, just action. Because the government hasn't just abandoned our vets, they've abandoned all of us. Operation Heal. We don't stop until they stop dying. Join the movement. Donate, share, and heal.
Hey, it's Bill Schmidt Jr., a.k.a. Billy Blaze, a.k.a. 420 Kid of the Holistic Cloud. R.I.P. to my man Derek Crum. I want to give a shout out to Calligraphy, my dude Means, little homie Manuel Noriega, Big Just, Rossi, Jack the Apostle, The League.
Smoke 'em if you got 'em. Big buzz till little crumbs broke up in the bottom. Feel like autumn leaves falling. Only problem needs solving is seeing who I'm calling for some trees to indulge in. Need to holler at Billy, he keep his head in the cloud. Bel Air Kush by the bush, wow. Screaming loud, still smoking, having nice dreams, floating through space. So when they ask me how high, my reply, I'm half-baked. Sir, smoke a lot. Doctor said I need a bacchiotomy. Prescribe me huckleberry and lemon cherry gelato, G. I take it back to rolling in the Optimo, blowing smoke out my nose, dropping ashes on my clothes till I doze off. I'm so fried, no lie. Got you afraid of heights, scared to look down, you so high. Cause when I spit that shit, it's like I lit that shit in the crowd. Pass it around and let you hit that shit. Weed is all I need. Smoke that weed. Weed is all I breathe. Broke down leaves. Roll up in the leaf for my relief. I'm in love with the THC. Roll that shit, lick that shit, burn it. 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 Good sunshine in my pocket on a Sunday stroll. Homie got the rap, give me the sack, let the good times roll. Therapy, earth, body, and soul. World, give me beef, Bel Air Kush, give me mental control. L-lit, back roll, 5 hats told. The studio we roll, bring relief. We the music, all I need to know. Healthier than pill pop. Mother, give me herbs to fill spot. My medication, kid to a kill shot. Many strands, lay hands in stressful situations. Out of all the girls in my life, Mary Jane, a reservation. Here in 23, raising hands of liberation. A celebration, history free from information. Stand up, provide the right education. Show love, holistic cloud, politics throughout the nation. Making it stop debating Billy Blunt, stash, flavor, taste the weed. Weed is all I need. Smoke that weed. Weed is all I breathe. Broke down leaves. Roll up in the leaf for my relief. I'm in love with the THC. Roll that shit, lick that shit, burn it. 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 Roll that shit, lick that shit, burn it.
All righty. Hello and welcome back. That was Calligraph, and they were singing THC. That is one of the artists that they promote often here on this channel, and we love their music. So, welcome in, Mr. Green. How are you? Can you hear me, Jed?
Hi, guys.
Hi. Okay.
How are you today?
We're good. We're good. We have the beautiful Dr. Regina Nelson in the house with the dread-headed hippie herself. And we were talking about Regina's books. We were talking about a little bit about credentialing. And I figured we would wait until we brought you on screen to fuss, cuss, and discuss 837 some more, right?
Yeah. No, thanks for having me on.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm sure this won't be the only time. I mean, 837 is going to be like a year-long process, so I'm sure that as things develop and, move forward, we'll definitely have you back and forth if you're willing to here. So, yeah. Regina, we were getting ready, I think, to talk to him about 1066 because we kind of brought that up a little bit, didn't we? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Jed, can you tell me, for patients, it seems like that 1066 aims to enhance the accessibility to medical cannabis, stronger, stricter controls. Can you kind of explain 1066 and how it's expected to roll out in phases?
Yeah, certainly. And yeah, I was on earlier and managed to I was fortunate enough to catch the front end of your conversation. So that was enlightening. Thank you both for, kind of talking about those things.
Yeah.
So 1066, yes, what we've got going on there is that the bill requires the OMMA to create a physician's registry. And part of that is a education requirement. And what the bill indicates is that the director is supposed to work with a couple of the medical boards, licensure boards, to develop a curriculum for that. And then once that's done, there will be initial and then I believe continuing education that will be put together. So that's kind of what the bill do. And then I believe wants all of that to be in place by January 1st of 2026 in the last version that I saw.
Okay. Because what I could find.
Yeah, so that's kind of what it.
Go ahead.
I was going to say I've got basically, I've advocated before for, to have some of these requirements, I have two concerns. Number one, the implementation timeline. I don't know that if, 7 months is going to be quick enough, is going to be enough time for OMMA to get this in place and not have this kind of be a little bit of a mess. We've seen this before with grower bond, employee credentials, other things. So I really key on that. Some concerns there. Then the other concern obviously is I want folks like Regina and Chip and some others to, definitely make sure, our community as a whole to make sure that they're getting information from folks that work with cannabis and how it helps, as opposed to groups that historically their entire focus is how does cannabis harm you? So those are kind of my two concerns. And I think that last piece, I think that there's opportunity for us to be involved in that, potentially also through the Executive Advisory Council. There's some routes there. It's not spelled out in law, but guys, there's definitely some avenues to make sure that we're, communicating on what that's going to, on what we'd like to see be a part of that physician education.
Right.
So,
we would also like to see a percentage of the taxes collected for recreational and medical to be utilized towards research and the benefits of medical cannabis, not just all the propaganda about the ways that it's horrible and reefer madness in today's time. What do you think?
Well, the budget is the plan, right? And so we know that if they are budgeting dollars towards that direction and looking at that, then that's an indication that they're interested in that, I believe that, and I could be wrong, but I believe that Michigan has allocated some dollars over time, a fairly substantial amount of money to research up there. I think there are some other states where we could look around and kind of see how they've handled it. That I've found kind of helps move the needle a little bit to open conversations down here, is to say, okay, well, let's start off with the question they always ask, what's been done in other states? It's good to go in and say, okay, here's what we're seeing. And as importantly, here's what they did. Here's what worked well. And here's what was a total debacle. So,
I understand you get the feedback from other states, but we were the leader in the industry as far as becoming the mecca of marijuana, the wild west of the cowboy up marijuana. Why can't we be the leaders and forefront providers in coming up with something new that works in totality?
Well, that is, I know that my hard-headed self has learned about as much in life of what not to do as what to do, right? And that is, that's the way that, I basically look at legislation, any of it, from businesses to whatever, is, I know what other states have done, and we've seen what's worked, and we've seen what has not worked. And so A lot of it is it's trial and error, but a lot of folks have gone before us. So we've got the benefit of that knowledge, which is, that same spirit as what we did there with State Question 837. The way it is set up is to avoid problems that we had, disruptions in the market, in patient access, just everything that, came with some of that. So we really look at, look and see what others have done. Sometimes they get it right. And sometimes you're like, boy, I hope we don't repeat that mistake.
Right, because history often repeats itself. It does seem like that often we do not learn our lesson. Like we've not bumped our head hard enough the first 5 times that the state went through a similar situation. Example K2, ephedra, spice, etc. And now we're on to the THCA movement. But overall, I was asking Regina, and I'm asking the same question. Do you feel like that our politicians would benefit from taking her Cannacian level training courses? And the reason why I ask that is because I've actually been asked by a politician, what is D9? I knew it would take a second for
it took us 4 years to get him to agree. It took us 4 years to get the agencies to agree on what THCA was. I think that something that you might consider would be taking the coursework per se, condense it into very high level, just, boom, 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 boom type of a thing. And, we just kind of start feeding it to them. I mean, if
something
they don't
specifically for legislators to understand.
There's a way to go about that. And I think that there are some that, might kind of want to go to the next level and the next level, but, look at it like strafing runs, guys. It's going to take a lot of passes to get it to stick.
Well, good thing.
Well, it is, and again, we're still dealing with a Schedule 1 drug. If we had already moved even to a Schedule 3, I can't say with this administration, but normally things would then open up to some funding that would give you opportunities to provide public education, to provide policymaker education, to provide and to again, and that's something we've been missing in this for a long time. We have a lot of independent local education, but on a larger national or global level, there hasn't been a whole lot of competition for the ECS Therapy Center. And it's really a shame because education is what, again, really makes change. When people have a good understanding of something and they're not navigating out of fear or misunderstanding, they can make better decisions.
Exactly. Yes. And I mean, I know that, ORCA has been, advocating, like whenever I had my meeting back in February with all the different agencies and stuff, you were kind enough to send me that document that ORCA had prepared a year earlier and had submitted to all the agencies, and I think it's funny that you have groups like yours and mine and others who have been up there fighting the good fight to bring awareness to the gas station weed and stuff like that. But yet our great and lovely governor put out something this week where he's, demanding a team of people to address this issue. Well, that team was already built. We did that in February and you did it a year ago. So, I think that he needs to acknowledge, the people that have brought it forward his attention, ORCA and Patients for Safe Access and others that have done that work, instead of just taking the credit for himself. So.
Well, as long as they get the mess cleaned up, they can have all the damn credit,
if they do it right, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but they got to get it done. I mean, that's it's good movement. There's still a long way to go. And the doc that I sent you was put together as a result of 3 years of talking circles around it. Like I said, it took us 4 years just to get them to agree on what a scientifically defined molecule is. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to be mean here, but, the thing is, we're not the only voice in the room. And there are interests that that protect any aspect. If there's a lot of money being made somewhere, there's someone more than likely that is working to protect that up at the Capitol. And so, I mean, there is there's epic backstories and stuff. I'm just glad to see that we're where we're at now, that we're getting awareness. The press is doing I like the spread over the course of the week. I mean, there was a good, 7 days running coverage of this now in different outlets. I think the Oklahoman did a great job. The Oklahoman, also to what we're talking about, Summer.
Mhm.
The first time that I popped up in the press bitching about this was almost 3 years ago in the Oklahoman. And, they were kind enough they've been tracking it. And then, they noted that, that our group has been, continuing to work on this. So
Yeah.
I was happy to get that acknowledgement, but I don't, I'm not trying to rub anything in anyone's face. I'm just trying to sit back, be helpful. I mean, Summer, as well as I do, we can be as helpful as they're going to allow us to be.
Mm-hmm. But even like the
That's it.
Harvard Labs guys,
That's it. And that's
even
the wrestling match.
yeah, but even like the Harvard Lab guys and other labs that have done
Yeah.
independent studies, like they're pushed off and treated just like a patient is when a patient brings something forward, which is under the rug and as if it doesn't exist. And that's something that our regulatory agency has got to change. They keep talking about this new patient services division. And I recently took a tour of the LMMA. And whenever we went in, I think it's the back door side. And they've got like, if you've ever been like to the Social Security office or something like that, how they've got a little like glass cubicles, beside each other. Well, they've got that set up there now. And they were talking about how like patients will be able to come in and they'll be able to, ask questions about their licensing process and how to get their, card applied for and that type of a thing. And I asked them, I was like, well, what about businesses? Because to me, it would be the businesses that need to have the access to come in and ask y'all questions.
What the actual fuck are they doing?
Right.
God, it's so bad.
So just a tidbit from that one. I hadn't gotten to talk to
Alrighty
them.
then. Well, we're just going to have to kind of help, keep working with them through the process and see how all this works out. Another thing I'd like to point out about State Question 837 is that it migrates all business licensure. It removes OMMA from business licensure over time.
Mm-hmm. Meaning, like, who will take over licensure from that point then?
OBNDD.
OBN only?
Yeah. We're stuck with this 2-master system here, and it's at license transfers or all of this. I mean, it's just executing businesses, So the thing is, in order to deal with this nationally export, the short end of it is you got to have a DEA number. You can only get that if you've got an OBN registration number. The federal government does not recognize OMMA. So when we're, looking forward here to be set, if we have to pick one or the other, if we pick OMA, then we cut ourselves off from, you see what I'm saying? So that's where we're at with it. They have actually on the business side, it's been jacked up both ways. They've been the better one to work with there and at the Capitol to get things, if we got a disagreement, we get after it, but everyone wraps it up. We get it resolved and, we don't get hosed. So what that does is, and the intent is to have OMA, and you see where they're trying to head that direction naturally right now. They're even lopsiding over into this where they really need to wrap it up on businesses, just the basic licensure and then launch your whole new division, whatever you're trying to do with patients. I mean, we want that taken care of. My point is we see where they're navigating. So that's what we do at 837 is we encourage that by putting them on 4 things: patients, caregivers, research, and education. That's what their focus can be, is the Oklahoma Medical Marijuana Authority. And then, that gets that agency's interest on that, which will actually then have if you think about it, they've got to go and request a budget every year. They're going to be requesting dollars for research and education because other than that, they're processing patient licenses.
So, who all was part of the process in creating 837?
Oh man, 837 is condensed language from State Question 818 and 819 that
Mm-hmm.
we did. What was it? Almost 4 years ago now. And when we did that, we had hundreds of people involved in the process that we did, through public comment. We built that whole thing over 6 months before we filed it within the patient and industry communities. And so what we did with 837 was I put both of those two questions into one, streamlined it to reflect where we were at now after 4 years of what we've seen with the legislature. And then we ran that back out there for public comment again for 2 months, got another few hundred comments on it, and came up with it as it sits. So this is unlike 820 or a lot of other questions you see. This was done with a broad effort of folks from all over, inside and outside the industry. Hell, I even solicited feedback from the agencies and lawmakers and got some. So,
well, speaking of lawmakers, I met with Mr. TJ Marty earlier this last week too, and he had an interesting take on it. He said that whenever you take things through a state question process and you don't take it through the House to be handled, that you end up with issues and problems similar to what we handled with 788 being too loose. Does that make sense?
okay, now what was this did he have a comment on 837 specifically? Is that what you were asking
I don't
about?
remember exactly how it was that was phrased, Charles. The thing with TJ Marty, whenever he was saying that if you're taking it as a state question and you're avoiding taking it through the House, then you end up with the problems that we ended up with in 788. That was basically. And I was also told that the people up there don't want to deal with medical marijuana, and that they just pretty much wash
That's
their hands.
right. Well, and see, that's why and that is why state questions are so important in Oklahoma. 60% of this state supported medical marijuana for over a decade before we got it done, and it never would have gotten done if we hadn't done it ourselves. And so again, that's been the big frustration. No one wants to deal with it, but it needs to get dealt with, and then they bitch about it because they're not putting in the work. And I mean, at the end of the day, if they just say, hey, just write us some shit up that's going to fix this, we'll pass it. Like, we'd have this thing on track so damn fast it'd make your head spin. But they won't do that. And I get it, because our issue up there is called the nuclear football. No one wants to carry it. You've got a couple of folks on either side that are kind of the designated leads. Other folks will have ideas. They'll throw stuff out there. Some of it's wild, but at the end of the day, when they refuse to act, look, how patient have we been working with them, trying to work with them? So, I mean, I've been doing this 7 years. 7 years. Okay. So I see what needs to be done. Not to worry, guys. We can take care of it. You don't ever have to vote on 21 plus access to marijuana. Okay. We'll take care of that. And we're going to simplify this thing for you. And it'll just, if we pass 837, it'll be like 788 all over again. We'll be there, day one with, the additional statutory language proposal that we're going to probably have a month or two that we'll float out there and get everyone's 2 cents in on it. And then I'm not worried about the EAC council. I'm not worried about anybody. I'm going to be like, this is the damn consensus proposal for this, just like we did with the unity bill, that if they would have adopted, anyway. So, and then we're going to be there because we've got public record. I'm going to have a full 90-minute documentary of what that looked like last time. And we'll say, okay, last time you didn't listen. Here's what the result was. We're back. Same proposition. We got this lined out. Everyone get in here. Let's get a working group, whatever in the hell y'all want to do, and get it sorted out. The good news is, though, is that with 837 being a constitutional amendment, all of us as individuals will know that, hey, it doesn't matter what they figure out on the business end. At the end of the day, we've all got our individual rights protected, locked in as patients, and that the program will implement anyway in 60 days. You see what I'm saying? With no new real requirements. So it takes a lot of pressure off of that back end on the legislature. They could basically just kind of sit there and the program would run basically. So it's a lot of cleanup language, but that is the opportunity to get in and work on some of these other things, like to get in there and say, hey, we want to see a little bit of this revenue going over here to education,
research
if
and
it passes
development.
Right. So it'll be a wonderful time. It'll be a wonderful time to work it all out should they decide they want to do that this time.
Even like the 3% tax for out-of-state sales, that's in there. I'd like to know and understand a little bit more about that as well.
Yeah. So the 3% export tax, what that is that is simply on products that are exported out of state. The other taxes don't apply to that. That doesn't apply to excise or state and local sales tax.
So are we concerned? Are we concerned at all about our higher quality products being grown specifically to send out of state and us being left with mediocre or anything like that as patients?
Well, the first thing that would have to happen is that there would have to be federal action. No one's exporting anything until the federal government does something with. In the meantime, what we're going to see is the producers that we have here simply start to ramp up what their capacity is to start filling it up. I know a lot of growers that have got a lot of capacity sitting there in indoor and outdoor facilities that they're only running 20% right now. And these are folks that produce quality product and can do it to scale. They've literally scaled down because of market share being taken by the gas station and internet weed. So, as someone that's like grown commercially, and I mean, I've gone out and grown 200 acres. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know what it takes to make sure that there is adequate. I mean, a lot of this can be grown and it can happen fairly quickly too. It really can. I mean, I could go out with feminized auto seeds and, 90 days later, we're pulling in thousands of pounds. So the growers will get it done for us. And then again, that'll be our short-term coverage. We'll see what the feds do. There will be a delay on it. Growers will have time to ramp up and they happily will, I'm sure.
Now, prepackaged goes into effect in Oklahoma, originally slated for June 1st, 2025. That's been pushed off to like November, right?
No, it does implement June 1st.
Okay.
And what happens is that basically, simply put, everything packaged first, everything that goes to a dispensary must be in prepackaged form June 1st and after. All of the currently existing inventory that exists before June 1st that are in dispensaries, all of that can be sold up until November 1st.
Till November 1st. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
And so just for shits and giggles here, what type of a budget does it take to run a rec bill?
Well, it depends on... To get it done seriously, what we're looking at is about $1 million for the signature gathering phase to ensure that we get it done. Think about it in terms of man hours or people hours. Okay. It's going to take about 30,000 hours of effort in a 90-day time period to get that done. It's basically the equivalent of like 20 or 25 people working full time the whole way through. So in order to make sure that, so imagine that you had that, you have to hit immense volunteer capacity to do that.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, while we're going to work that as much as we can, at the end of the day, what we're looking at is I would like to, once we get the front, basically 400K of the budget covered, then everything we raise after that, we can start. I'm going to allocate basically $2 a signature as long as we got the money. And so that will help, so that should help incentivize things, help folks offset cost of gas and whatever doing it. I hope someone goes out. I hope I have the money, and I hope someone walks into me and they've collected 3,000 signatures over the weekend, and I give them 6K, and we got 3,000 valid signatures in the bank. Please.
So for someone that's going around and collecting signatures for the petition, is it that they have to bring that stuff back to you, or do you go collect those, or how does that go so that they get turned in?
This is a massive operation. And so what we're doing between now and when we're able to, at the earliest, August 15th, okay, but our organizational deadlines, we're looking at August 1st. We're working to get people set up in counties all over the state. And we've had a pretty good initial jump on doing that. And so we will have, look at it like a distribution network, I'll be here in Oklahoma City, but, we'll have people that'll be covering different counties, and, they'll, do the running around per se, or folks can bring them, back to centralized locations there. But we've got people that are popping up to kind of be leads. It's going to be a real big organization for about 120 days.
But all signatures that have been signed onto the petition do have to be collected and counted, correct?
Yes, all of it. Yes, all packets ultimately come back to me.
Okay.
I submit them to the Secretary of State. The Secretary of State then goes and counts all of the signatures and verifies that the people who signed are registered to vote.
Okay. And then let's see. One of the things that, answer this riddle too. If you were to want to make an amendment to 837 currently, like example, if we wanted to put a 100 milligram edible cap to the adult use patient, okay, since it's not in the language currently, if we wanted to add something like that into the language, what would be the process of doing so?
You would have to file, you would have to add that, you would have to take the language that exists, you would have to add that in, and then you would have to go and file that with the Secretary of State, and it would be a separate petition than 837. Otherwise, the way to do it is the clean way to do it is to do it in statute after 837 passes.
Okay. And there wasn't any type of a cap put into recreational currently in the language, right?
No,
Okay. And Regina, do you have some questions for Jed about 837? I've kind of just asked a million questions right here, but I want to give you the chance to free roam here and take with it what you want.
Well, I don't have any other questions. I want to thank him for the work that he's done to get this going. I think it is a huge, phenomenally huge undertaking, and I really do appreciate you taking it on for people in the state.
Well, thank you for that. Happy to. I mean, it's the mission. It needs to get done. We are not going to settle this thing down, and there's going to be no peace for anyone until we get this taken care of. So especially not me, because I'm not going to let it go.
Now, how many times have we attempted to get adult recreational passed in the state of Oklahoma currently?
It's been voted down once. That was 820. I think that there have probably been, there might even be nearly 10 petitions that have been filed over the last 15 years on this. It is a medical 788, I believe, was the third try at medical. So it's it's a very storied, historical thing starting in 2012, I think, was the first time. And that was about the time that Connie had run a Senate bill on it, which was the second time. Which is the second time that had happened in the state. Someone randomly did it back in the 90s. Someone threw a bill out there in the 90s to legalize. Yeah, no shit.
Yeah.
I dug all the way into everything, guys. I had to know.
Right. Well, I mean, out of everything so far, my only opposition to it is the fact that there's not some THC caps in there, and there's not differentiating. I guess you call it like purchase capability. Like, so me as a medical patient, if I want to go in and I want to purchase RSO, I want to know that they're going to have RSO for me to purchase. RSO is not something, commonly used by a recreational patient. It's typically a medical patient, So I would want to know that those things that are specifically, more so medical than recreational would be available to the medical patient in this program.
Right. Well, I think that what we're gonna, that's one of the things that it's like, just have to communicate with the producers. It's so much easier if, as customers of the business, get together directly. Make that known, right? If otherwise, what you're doing is you have government and business, but then you've got consumers and business, but then you've got government. And when, why go up here to go through all the effort to get them to tell them what to do if you can just simply handle it that way?
I guess my concern would be someone, and I use this all the time, and please, Eden Rose, I love you. I'm not using this as a bad reference, but I always use the reference of the 10,000 milligram mega scrappies, and we, at 21 years old, these young adults are going to gain access to alcohol and to cannabis at the same time. And if they're allowed to go in and make a purchase of a high milligram product or a product that doesn't fit their needs, you know what I mean? And they become too intoxicated to be able to, well, they shouldn't be intoxicated driving anyways, but do you understand kind of where I'm going with that? Where the concern would lie?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I think that, and again, that's why, this isn't something we wanted to address in 837. I think there's a lot of conversation that can go around this. We didn't say it may be done, it may not be done. We just left it open. And with like a lot of other things that it's like, that is not something to lock into the Constitution, no matter what it is. You want to leave it statutory so that this could be hashed out. I mean, there's a lot of study that could go on this, one of the, there's some of us, because I mean, obviously I've got personal opinions as well, but it's like, hey, let's keep that over in this arena. And I mean, I'm just, you'll on that one, you're going to be able to find me over in I can walk in and buy the whole damn liquor store, and alcohol's actually killed people.
Right, exactly. And that's
what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I'm kind of like, if all it is in that edible is D9 and they want to mess around and take 5,000 milligrams, I guarantee they will never do it again.
No, probably not. Probably not. So,
and probably not, unlike alcohol. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm not going to take the same attitude with a bottle of Everclear. Oh yeah, just drink the whole thing. No, it might really actually kill them.
No, it might. You're right, 100%.
Yeah, like seriously. So
that's where their irresponsibility of their age, I guess, is a concern as well. So it's and
what I'm encouraged by this, is it's like, so we're talking about that. The thing is also, I think that those conversations also come along. It's like they kind of go hand in hand when we talk about the education parts of it, be it for employee credential or be it for physicians. There's kind of this, it kind of goes into dosing, kind of, there are products that'll make a THC overdose calm down. You can flood out the CB1s with other stuff and you can actually bring people down, but
you can take a choline supplement and knock it out in 30 minutes.
Yeah. And this is the thing. And this is the thing. And now I'm making some inroads on this. I've been hammering on this part for about 4 years. Like, I've walked into committee meetings with, hey, this would actually, the trick is getting the hospitals to calm down, or at least like, I mean, it's like I'm sitting here with the cure and you're sitting here and this kid's struggling, and all you got to do is give them a little bit of this and boom, and they don't even realize it. You know,
well, and that's where I'm at right now with
I want to see.
most of my education has been with hospitals, with ER physicians, with primary care physicians, and with others, because now they're getting they are more informed. They do see that cannabis is medicinally helpful for a lot of their patients, but they're still dealing with overdoses, and they want to label it all cannabis hyperemesis. And so I put together a class that really teaches them what an overdose is and what cannabis hyperemesis is, because they're two different things. They both have hyperemesis in
diagnosed with
common.
that myself. I was recently diagnosed.
And and so my own daughter was diagnosed with cannabis hyperemesis, and another was sent home from an emergency room, only to go to a different hospital a few hours later and have her gallbladder out. So I've had to deal with it in my own family. And the thing is, we now know there are a lot of genetic links that that would necessitate for somebody, and there are very few people who have true cannabis hyperemesis syndrome. There are a lot of people who misuse cannabis along with sometimes other substances, particularly already mentioned alcohol. You go out with friends, you take that edible, and that would be great if that's all you did, but you got bored in the meantime and you started drinking. And then when it all kicks in, you're a mess.
Yep.
And choline will help with some things, but again, when you're multi-substances and stuff, it becomes much more complex, but it can be, again, really helpful, and it's a very easy solution.
Yep. And these doctors, a lot of the times in Oklahoma right now, we see at least once a week on the news about a child being brought into the ER for a cannabis, related experience. And
and that only is going to just amplify a lot of problems in the family, because right after that means Child Protective Services are going to come in, and you're just going to take off from there.
Is it actual cannabis that the child got hold of, or is it a Delta 8 gummy?
And that's a whole nother problem too.
Right. Our industry is blamed for the blanket problem when that's not the whole problem there.
No. I told you, we mentioned earlier, I got arrested in 2018 as 788 was pushing up. And when I was still in jail and talking to my attorney, Brecken Wagner and Lynch, still love them out in McAllister. But I told him, I said, as soon as this passes, your whole practice is going to change. Well, it may be defense. You're going to be defending different things. And we've seen that over and over with issues, in Oklahoma, because again, it seems like the whole industry is blamed for a lot of issues. And we've seen a lot of issues. I've had to deal with a lot of families, with their attorneys trying to help them deal with issues. And it's just a shame.
Even when we're testing products like tobacco products and stuff like that, people in the cannabis industry are like, well, why are you testing that? Well, one, a lot of those products are used as wraps for blunts, but also two, a person's health issues might not be from the cannabis that the doctor thinks it's from. It might be from the cigar that they're smoking that failed for 3 different heavy metals and 2 different pesticides. Cannabis itself, our medical marijuana program, gets such a bad name for these different things that there are other attributing factors that come into play that are not being looked at and identified. And that's why we test all the things we test,
No, and I think that's a fair thing. Again, it really comes down to education and understanding what you have, what your product is, and what you're selling. And my big problem is, in most cases, people don't know what Delta 8 or Delta 10 are, or any of these things. They don't know what they are. They don't know how they're made. And so that's enough for me to stop right there. But because I do know those things, they terrify me.
Well, guys, let me have each of you real quick. Regina, if you will give us your socials, and that way people can find you on Facebook, IG, TikTok-y, whatever else you've got going.
Oh, I'm going to drop it all at the same time. It's going to fall off the stand. So you guys can find me on Facebook. Most things, again, reginanelson.com will get you most places for the ECS Therapy Center. Our website is myecstherapy.org. And we're celebrating our 10th anniversary this year. One of the things we're doing is trying to give away 10,000 books. So we're looking for people to come in and sponsors book drops. In fact, I've had just a couple little ones out of Oklahoma this weekend where people are just taking books to dispensaries and their doctor's offices. And I really do appreciate that. And again, I think the more we get education out, the more we'll make positive change.
I'll drop books. So, Jed, go ahead and give us your socials, please, dear.
Yeah, you can find us. You can find us on Facebook, ORCA, Oklahomans for Responsible Cannabis Action, and that's mainly where we hang out. We are on Insta over there at ORCA OK, and then we're also at orca4ok.com.
All right.
Lots of updates going on the website right now. So it's good. Hopefully it'll really be a really handy resource for everyone as we continue to add to it. So.
And if you're in Oklahoma, they have a legislative tracking document at the top of the ORCA page, which gives you current legislation and where it's at in the process currently. So that's been a great asset for many people, I'm sure, including myself. So, all right, last few comments here was Crystal. Oh, no, Sherry. Sherry said even hospice patients, it helps them have an appetite in regards to cannabis. Crystal said our allowance is indicative of medical treatment and dosages. Recreational has in quantities, even though the need isn't for therapeutic treatment. Correct. And Granny Canvas says, so sorry that I'm late. And you guys can find this dread-headed hippie at Dabbing Nana, DABBING NANA 78 on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and on YouTube. So make sure you hit that like and subscribe and follow WTHC Radio. This broadcast is live on Philadelphia for radio, for TuneIn and Live 365 and Spotify, as well as the YouTube. Thank you guys to both of my beautiful guests, and I'm sure that we'll be talking again in the Oklahoma future.
All right. See y'all.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
This production is brought to you by DHBN, WTHC Radio,
You're good, Jed.
and Stoner Records.
To the room where the green vibes flow, where the lights shine bright and the knowledge will grow. From soil to the sun, we'll master the art. To grow room's the place, let's spark up the start. The grow room where the secrets bloom. Plant your dreams, watch them consume. We'll guide the buds to a perfect tune. Step inside, it's the grow room. Stepping up strong with a righteous plea. Summer Parker fighting for you and me. Patients need what the doctor has said. Safe access now to the meds they bred. One love, one fight, don't you delay. Rights for the people in